Today on this segment of Nabity on Business, I'm going to talk about something I know a lot of you wrestle with, and it's family drama in business. What's it look like? How do you fix it? Stay with us. Okay, when we're dealing with family businesses, a lot of times things aren't going so well. Now, it's really kind of rare anymore that I find a company where you have parents that started the company, kids are in the business, everybody's gone to MBA school. One's great at accounting, one's great at sales marketing, another one is great at management and operations, and everything is just working just wonderfully. I'd have to say probably 1 out of 20 would be in that category. On the opposite ends of the barbell, there's a company where the parents have started it. They may not have any kids in the business, but if they do have a kid in the business, that kid hasn't been to school, hasn't worked for somebody else, has only been there kind of staffing a position because mom and dad are worried about where they would go in life if they weren't on the payroll of the company. And you're trying to figure out how to put together a good succession plan, and you're trying to figure out how to put together a good estate plan. And so I've given you two ends of the barbell there. And what I'm going to try to do is slide in the middle of both and talk about maybe what a typical company might be dealing with. So with regard to the children, here's the first thing I want to talk about. Now, when I'm talking about working with the children, one of the first things that I ask is what sort of work experience has that child have? Did they, when they got out of school, did they go to work for somebody else besides mom and dad? Did they work there for a couple years and learn things mom and dad would never be able to train them because mom and dad maybe aren't in that area? Did they bring a life experience that they learned from someone else than a family member and then bring that to the business to provide value? The next thing is the kind of skill set they bring to the table. Do they fit a role in the company that is needed, and do they do it well? Did they bring competence, experience, and talent to the area that you're putting them in inside the company? The next area is work ethic. Because they're one of your kids, do they take advantage of the family dynamic by coming in late, leaving early, putzing around, have a really good skill, or are they easily replaceable, basically? I mean, if they weren't on the payroll, would anybody notice? Would it matter? Do they feel entitled because they're family that they can get away with a lot of things? The next thing is, are they active? Now, what do I mean by that? You could have 4 kids and have 1 active in the business. You could have 2 active in the business and 2 inactive. You could have the inactive kids really struggling with bad decisions and a poor personal life. Or you could have 2 inactive kids, one that's a physician and one that's a lawyer and doing really, really well, and they have absolutely no idea getting into the business. But let's say the business is worth $10 million, and each kid's thinking in their own mind, mom and dad's going to like us all the same, so my share of that company is worth $2.5 million. And when mom and dad are gone, guess what? I'm going to find a way to cash that thing in and get my $2.5 million. Whether they make bad personal decisions and really don't deserve anything, or whether they're highly educated and skilled and have a great career someplace else, if they see $2.5 million that could be on their balance sheet or will be on their balance sheet when mom and dad die, you can have a really nasty dynamic between the kids because you've got some that want the money versus some that want to stay and operate the company. Now, a lot of that will have to do with what kind of profits are kicked off every year. Sometimes you'd be an idiot to force the sale of that stock and pay capital gain tax when you can get great distributions off the company every year. So that's something that kind of makes a difference. What else could be issues of family drama in a business? You could find yourself in a situation where you have an excellent management team, but the management team has no respect for the kids that are in the business. And they know they're there because mom and dad has paved the way for them to be there, but the management team has no respect for them. The last thing I want to mention about this is you might have a situation where you have external operations like banks and lending institutions and suppliers that have no respect for the kids. They might have respect for the management team because they deal with them day in and day out, but the children aren't going to walk in the bank and get a revolving line of credit for $2 million to help with cash flow of the company because the banks and the professionals inside those lending institutions don't have any respect for the kids. So that's kind of the issues in a nutshell that we see on a regular basis. Kids that come into the business right away, all they know is what mom and dad's taught them. They don't have lifestyle experience and skill set experience taught to them by other people to the point where they bring to the business great value. You can also have a work ethic problem where not only do they not work very hard, they might not live right at home. You know, we see a fair amount of alcoholism with the kids, and we see a fair number of these kids that aren't family people. They don't seem to care about whether they're going to be family people. They might find themselves in their mid-30s and they're still carrying on like a college kid. They haven't grown up and matured, and yet they're being expected to be in a leadership role with the company. You know, you've got the situations where you have great family wealth with only maybe one child in there running and operating it. And when mom and dad are gone, all the kids are expected to be treated equal. And that creates a huge problem. And that is the respect issue. Do your kids really have the respect of those that are in management? Or do they all just tolerate your kids because they're family and they're on the payroll? And will the lending institutions, financial institutions, and the suppliers and the people that the business transacts with on a regular basis, will they have respect for the next generation? Those are big questions that need to be answered. So let me talk about a few of the solutions. All right, so when I start talking about solutions, and I'm dealing with work experience, one of the things I want to say to parents that do not have kids in the business yet, make sure they work for somebody else for a couple years. And if there is a niche or a role that you think they might be able to find in the business, do the personality profiles, do the DISC tests, strength finders, you name it. There's a whole bunch of different tests that they can take, but find out what your child's unique ability is. Then let them go to work for somebody that will allow them to hone those skills. And then after a couple years, give them an opportunity to come into the business. But you definitely don't want to push them to the front of the line. You want them to come in just like you would anybody else and give them an opportunity to work their way up. That's really important. Now, if you already have kids in the business and you haven't done that, then it's important to develop sincere accountability strategies that they have to follow. And these are the fundamentals of working here. If you don't follow the fundamentals, you don't work here. If you do follow the fundamentals, you have the opportunity to work here. But you can't take business fundamentals that you would apply to other people on the payroll and not apply them to your own kids. That makes them soft, that makes them entitled, and it causes the management team to disrespect them. So work experience and accountability is essential. If they're fine on accountability, but they're lacking on the work experience side, enroll them in schools, have them go back and get an MBA, get them involved in industry training programs where they go away for a week and they learn bigger and better skills. Put them in an environment of learning so that over a year or two, they'll be dramatically different in the way that they manage themselves at the company from a work experience standpoint. If you really focus on embracing that strategy, that's going to take care of the skill set because you're going to get them trained by other people and industry standards and classes that you send them to so that their skill set will be right where you need it so that they're a valuable member of the team. And then if you put the accountability together with all of that, and you put it together in a nice bow because it doesn't matter what kind of experience they've had, and it doesn't matter what kind of skill set they have. If they don't have the work ethic, then it doesn't matter. I know companies that have kids that are highly educated, lawyers, accountants, and so on. And because mom and dad let them, they only work about 20 hours a week and they make a six-figure income. Parents have been soft on the kids in this area because they don't want to create family drama. Love the idea of having the family business carried on by their own children, but the standards that they're holding them to aren't good at all. And frankly, if non-employee people carried on like their kids did, they'd be fired. So again, business fundamentals first, family planning comes second. Now, let's talk a little bit about active kids versus non-active kids. All right, let's talk about the next big issue here, and that's active kids versus non-active kids. Now, you can have one child out of four that came into the business, has worked there ever since they got out of school, maybe even before they got out of school. And they've been there from 7 to 7 every day for the last 10 years. The parents are looking at the other three, and one's a pastor, one is in, like I said, accounting, another one's in law, and they're not coming back to the family business. Is it fair to take this active person, and have them run the company and have to split 75% of the profits with the non-active family members? Do you really think it's fair that this one person should be splitting 75% of the profits with people that aren't active in the business? I don't think so. We have a scenario right now where this person has a child in the business, and we've got a family member over here that owns stock and has been getting big dividends for a long period of time. The person over here is getting close to 80 years old. The child here is like 28 years old, is the future of the business. And we're having a terrible time getting the shareholder over here to agree to sell to the next generation so the business can carry on for years. And it's a business that's in its fourth generation. And so the legacy of keeping this company together is really important. But we can't get this family member to agree to sell to the next generation because they've been collecting so much money. And the lawyer screwed up in the buy-sell agreement. The buy-sell agreement should have said, at any given time, those that are actively managing the shares of the company have the right to buy back the shares of the person that's non-active at fair market value based on an independent appraisal. And you could put an age limit and things like that in it, but this person's almost 80 and doesn't want to sell the stock to the family member that's the successor to run the whole place. So it gives you an idea of how you got to get the planning done right. But my contention is the only people that should own stock in a family-run company are those that are actively managing it. And the way that non-active people end up getting stock is because mom and dad put an estate plan together, and the estate plan is basically based on this. They put a plan together and they say, look, the business, the real estate, the summer home, the stock and bond investment portfolio, it's all worth X. And I love all of my kids equally, so I'm just going to split it all. And they don't think about the fact that they're taking a closely held business that helped the family build all this wealth, and they're splitting it up a bunch of different kids. And trust me, when mom and dad are gone, the fights begin. I would say out of 10 cases like this, 8 result in battles because the non-active kids either want all the income to keep coming to them, or they want to sell the assets out from under the person running and operating the business so they can get a big fat check and go do something else. So planning ahead for this is absolutely critical. Now, what mom and dad can do is value the business and look at what ends up going to the child that's actually running and operating the business and the grandchild, and carve that out of the estate and allow that stock to go to the children that are active in the business. If the other assets don't total a fair amount with the other kids, you can always get life insurance in place to even it up. And trust me, the life insurance costs are way less expensive than the kind of problems that you're going to create by not taking care of it. But inactive family members should not hang on to stock so that the active people cash flow them the rest of their life. It creates bitterness, creates anger, it creates entitlement, and you might even find yourself in a situation that somebody over on the inactive side, they become an alcoholic, or they start making bad choices, multiple marriages, you name it. Living a lifestyle that is just off the charts bad. And, I'm not saying, I'm not putting down multiple marriages, but I'm talking about somebody that's serially in and out of relationships, multiple kids from different people, perhaps, guys that just never grow up and drink themselves to bed every night. You got to make sure that the estate plan doesn't enable people to carry on in bad lifestyles. And there might be a fair amount of bitterness between the people that are living the right way and those that aren't living the right way. So planning this whole thing out is really, really important. And mom and dad, I'm just going to tell you, if you think everything is going to be super good, I want you to think about this. 8 out of 10 situations where the business assets are put in the hands of non-active people, there's drama, especially when farms are involved, because you have huge value in the land. The income off of the land rises and falls and is unstable based on commodity prices and rain. Rain alone the lack of rain can make the yields horrible. So the non-active farm children, they want the value of the land. And so you take one kid and you just pull the rug out from under them. They can't farm anymore. And what are they supposed to do with their lives? They might have kids that they were planning on bringing in to continue to run the farm. So working through this is really, really important. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about is respect. Now, I brought it up earlier. Does the management team respect your children? Do the banks, the lending institutions, the suppliers, the customers, do they respect your children? Now, I'm going to go old school on you here, but I mean it. What I say here, I mean it. Appearance is one of the worst things I see today in kids and family businesses. The parents let them dress like slobs. Their hair can not be kept. They don't particularly look clean. They don't know how to use an iron and press their shirts and press their pants. If they were all sitting at a table and a person was to pick who is the successor executive of the company and who isn't, they would look over the child because they look so poorly. Bad haircuts, clothes that are frumpy, kids that don't know how to use an iron. And, I wear jeans a lot during the day, but when I have an important meeting, I throw slacks on. And if I wear my cowboy boots, they're clean and they're polished. If I've got a brown pair of shoes on, I have a brown belt on. You try to have your metals match. You try to put yourself together so that your clothes are tight, your slacks are tight, your leathers are clean and polished. You look well put together. When you go into the military doesn't put up with that crap. And if you go in and try to pretend that you're going to dress like a slob, guess what? You're in big trouble. You have to toe the line. You need to have standards in your company with the way people present themselves and how they look. And I'm sorry if that seems intolerant, but I am sick of it. If you have a child that is not presentable as an adult, they aren't presentable as an adult, and you expect to take them into the bank and sit them down at the conference table and ask for $1 million line of credit to operate, if you weren't sitting in the room, would the bankers have enough respect for your child to agree to carry on and renew the line of credit? That's something that you have to ask yourself. And this next generation has gotten so sloppy at the way they present themselves. You might even see a successor to a company wearing a baseball cap backwards at work and a t-shirt and tennis shoes. And they're not carrying themselves like executives. If you want the respect of the people inside the company and the people outside the company, fix the appearance. We talked about work ethic, and I'm just telling you, your kids should come in before everybody else and they should leave after everybody's gone. That's really, really important. And if they're coming in late and they're not communicating and they take off early, morale inside the business is not going to be where it needs to be. Training. If the management people see that this person is going through intense training, they're learning accounting, they're learning finance, they're learning sales, they're learning marketing, they're studying all the IT programs, and they're getting a good handle on what the technology inside the company should look like. They learn management training and leadership training so that they're going about dealing with people in the office in the right way. They don't lord it over people. They don't command respect because they're a kid. They're collaborating well. And the last thing I want to mention here is love. Love's not talked about very often. But going the extra mile to care for people, to show an interest in people, when they're having rough times, then their family, kids sick, maybe marriage is in trouble, being able to show love and kindness to the people that work for you, showing love and kindness for the people that work for you are really important. And, there's one word I didn't put on here, but I want to talk about is humility. What overrides all of this is humility, kindness, and love. So I hope this is helpful. I know it's kind of like a dad talk more than a business talk, but companies fail because mom and dad don't make this stuff a big enough priority. They do. If dad started the business and dad dies and mom has to be in the middle of 4 kids doing battle and things aren't set up the way that I'm saying they should set up, what do you suppose that's going to do to mom? She's got to pick between kids. She's got to decide which kid's going to get what. The pressure on a widow to deal with kids in the middle of things like this, it's overwhelming. And dads, I'm just going to talk to you now. Don't put this off. Give me a call, 402-391-0222, or just go to Nabity.com. Give me a call, send me an email, and let's just sit down and chat. Let's get to know each other, and let me start to look through what's happening in your business and what's happening in your family, and let me help you get things buttoned down. So at the end of the day, if you're on your deathbed and you got one eye open and you're looking around at the room of the people that are standing near to your bed, you can have great pride and great joy that you set things up in such a way that you did the right thing by the company, but everybody around your bed loves each other. because of the way you set things up. That is the most important.